Hey guys, so welcome to the channel, and today's channel is gonna be mostly based on poultry. So I know I almost never do poultry when it comes to the channel, but I think now this is the time to go into it. So without further ado, today I'm going to be talking about a number of items that I prepared. So this is mostly to help you guys that want to do poultry farming. So we know in South Africa there's a lot of poultry happening all over the shore. So you might be in Limpopo, you might be in Gauteng, or you might be in the Western Cape, but ultimately there is poultry wherever you go. Why? Because it's profitable. Now, there are so many people that have asked me a number of questions when it comes to poultry, particularly when it comes to broiler. So I'm going to be talking about meat birds, which we call broilers in South Africa and in a number of countries as well. So the first question that people always ask me is, how long does it take for a broiler to reach maturity from chick stage to the point where you'll be able to sell them and obviously be eaten as meat? And guys, the thing about this is you pretty much have to raise them for 6 to 9 weeks. 6 to 9 weeks is what I suggest you would go by. So I've raised them a couple of times on my farm, and 6 to 9 weeks for me is the sweet spot. If you really must keep it to 10 weeks, then you need to know that you are now eating into your profits, because every single day that a broiler is spending on your farm, it's gonna be eating, and it's gonna be taking some amount of heat that you will need to provide to that animal. So obviously it's going to be chowing into your profits. So 6 to 9 weeks is the sweet spot for raising a broiler from chick to a point where you can sell it off. And now when we're talking about the eating strategy of broilers, so some of you that have raised animals will know that number one, they eat a lot. The broilers eat a lot. Even layers themselves, they eat a lot. So from the point where they are from 0 to 8 weeks, they eat starter, right? That's the kind of food that they eat. And then from 8 to 16 weeks, that's another. From 2 to 4, 5 months, they'll be eating what is called grower. And obviously from that point, 16 plus weeks, if you have broilers still, you're gonna be eating maybe something to maintain, or still some of you might still want to grow it depending on what weight or what kind of mass you're targeting for each bed. But if you are raising other things like layers, then you will have to feed them layer mesh, which is what will allow them to obviously create more and more eggs for you. But this is on a different chapter that I'm going to be talking about in some of my next videos. So today I said, in terms of a duration, I said 6 to 9 weeks that you can keep a broiler in your farm and still remain profitable. And then in terms of feeding, you'll have to feed them twice a day. That is the other point that I wanted to relate to you guys. Someone asked me, how often do you need to feed your broilers? Guys, two times a day for me is what really does it, because after that you might, that's a sweet spot. Again, I keep talking about sweet spots, because you can overdo it, you can underdo it. But the trick here is to just do it two times a day, in the morning and in the evening. Morning at around 7, 8, or 6, if you're an early riser, or you can do it around 4 or 5 before you close them off, obviously, or before you just let go of them if they are in a battery setup. So that's the strategy towards feeding them. And I've also mentioned the kind of food that you have to feed them. And then the other part as well, that while you are feeding them, you need to understand you don't want a couple of things that are happening. If you don't want to underfeed them, but also you don't want to overfeed them. Why? There are two risks that you have to look out for. The first one is pressurization, because you are overfeeding your broilers. They will end up developing some sores at the bottom of their feet, because their body becomes too heavy for their feet, and therefore they will start over pressurization of those feet at the bottom. So this happens, guys, even to animals as well, to humans as well. So the more you eat, the more you grow, you increase your bone weight or your bone density. You are bound to get something like that. So you have to avoid overpressurization. The second part that you have to avoid from overfeeding is a normal one. Just like in humans, obesity. You don't want obesity, because it means your waste. So what you need to do is to strike a balance between providing enough food so that they maintain a healthy weight, and also avoiding of obesity and overpressurization of the feet. And also at the same time, on the other extreme is avoiding emaciated chickens that won't fetch any weight when it comes to the market. So that's the kind of basics of broilers. And then the other one, someone asked me, when it comes to light, do you need light for your chickens? Yes, you need light. Why? Because they need to eat, right? And like I said, they will be on your farm or they will be in your yard for 6 to 9 weeks. So for them to reach that weight that you want from 6 to 9 weeks, they've got to achieve that weight quite fast. How do you do it? You need to make sure that you provide light, because they'll keep eating through the night. They'll eat during the day, but there's a study that was concluded, I think 2 years ago, that was done when it comes to the amount of darkness actually that you might need to provide for your chickens, just so that it increases their metabolism, it allows them to process the food within them. And this is actually 4 hours, right? 4 hours that has been identified as the time that you might need to leave your animals, just so that they can regurgitate. I think cows regurgitate, not chickens. But anyway, so they need to process their food for 4 hours. And then when it comes to poultry farming in South Africa, someone asked me, how much money do you need for you to start poultry farming? And guys, there is no, I would say, a hard and fast rule when it comes to how much money you need when it comes to poultry farming. But you know what you need to set up, because that's the first thing. You need to understand what you need to set up your plant or your farm. So you might need land. That's the good thing about chickens is they don't take a lot of land. So let's just say you're gonna erect your structures on a 1 hectare piece of land. That's gonna be somewhere around 300,000 in South Africa, depending on the location. So 300,000 1 hectare land. That's one. Two, you're gonna need something like the structures, right? There's a number of structures. I'm gonna put them right here, and then you can check them out. The number of structures, they are very simple structures. Some of them might be just made of metal, and then some tent coverings on the sides to allow for circulation of air. And then there are other different types as well that people are using in different parts of the world, but in South Africa you'll find mostly those ones that I've just mentioned. I'm gonna be expounding on them maybe in some of the videos. So land, you have the shelter, and obviously now you need to put in some wood on the ground. So there's like pine shavings that you can put to make sure that you kind of separate the ground from the chickens, and obviously provide some form of comfort. You need drinkers. So drinkers, you can get them from a different number of suppliers. So you need roughly around 3 drinkers for every 100 chickens. That will make sure that you cover a number of, especially when they're young. So you can increase obviously as you go, but it's something that you absolutely need to make sure that you have at least 3 for every 100 chickens that are within your farm. So yeah, that's where we then say, okay, you have enough water, you have warmth, that's light that you need to provide, you have some infrared lights. I think you can get them from a number of suppliers, even on Take-A-Lot, and then you put them in there, you connect them, your water is there, it's clean, your house is clean, you obviously fumigate, you get rid of any bacteria that might be on the ground, any viruses, which brings me to a point of you need to immunize. You need to provide some vaccination as well against some of these like influenzas that usually affects bird flu and stuff like that. So you need to have all of those things together, and then you put a key one. A key one is not the chickens themselves, actually, is the feed. You need to make sure that, from my point of view, have all the feed that you need before you start, and just budget for around 9 to 10 weeks of growth before you sell off. And the key one that I think most people are not told about this is identifying who your customer is. Because if you raise your chickens without knowing who your customer is, that's a recipe for disaster. Because they're going to be on your farm, they're going to be eating from 9 weeks, 10 weeks, 11 weeks, 12 weeks. And then they will be eating every single day. And then you might end up having to eat them yourself. Because I know people who raise chickens and they ended up eating them because they couldn't find the suppliers. And they will have to feed them each and every single day from their point of maturity to the point where they are now just growing and growing and growing and not being bought. So yeah, guys, this is the my first video, I think, after a number of weeks now, and I wanted to share with you poultry farming, what you need to do, some of the basic questions that are always asked by people when it comes to poultry farming, when it comes to broiler farming. I'll be talking about layers in I think in the next video. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our channel, Plot 62. And also, if you feel like this channel is gonna help someone that you know who's into farming, who likes farming, or who just wants to know about poultry farming, who just wants to know about a whole bunch of things that I've covered so far, please share with them. Bye.